Alright, hi, hello, welcome back to another r/Nosleep video. I'm recording this video, on the 21st, so I don't know if, last video is doing well, or this one might do well, I don't know, I'm kinda in a real life time paradox thing right now. But hello, hi, welcome back to another r/Nosleep video. Here I'm repeating everything, but, I really enjoy making these videos for you guys. At the time of me recording this, we were at 96 subscribers over on YouTube, and I want to say thank you guys so much for love and support. It really means so much to me, and just thank you. Okay, so like the last video that came out before this one, we are going to be reading 2 scary stories today. I'll go back to reading like 4 scary stories every Monday, and whenever that comes out. I mean, you'll see the videos longer than usual. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, all the stories are linked down below if you want to read along with me. And yeah. So the first story is called "I Used to Be a Trauma Surgeon, and This Is What Made Me Quit." I wanted to save lives. It's why I became a trauma surgeon, so that I could save people and give them a second chance or a hope of recovery. I wanted to save lives. Now, I just want to forget. Also, a quick side note. This is streamed live, it's unedited, so this is a one take. So if I stutter, if I mumble, if you hear me drink something, this is all one take. I have no editing software, no nothing. So I'm just doing this one take, so hopefully you all still enjoy. But I just want to throw that in there because I keep forgetting to say it. So sorry about that. Okay, so back to the story. Now, I just want to forget. About a month ago, I got called about a patient in need of urgent care. Some asshole on a motorcycle had run a red light and hit a pedestrian outside of a bar. The idiot on the donor cycle was dead, but the pedestrian survived. He was circling the drain, but he was still alive. I got there about as fast as I could and immediately got prepped for surgery. The patient had suffered numerous fractures from the impact, severe internal bleeding, and one hell of a concussion. I was going to need to stop that bleeding and set their broken bones. I hate to call something like that routine, since it technically wasn't routine, but I dealt with this kind of thing before. The patient in question was sedated and waiting for me when I walked into the operating room. And just looking at them, I knew I had my work cut out for me. I could barely see their face underneath all the blood. They looked to be a young man, somewhere in his mid to late 20s, and he had a fairly fit physique. I figured that if we could maybe stop the bleeding, then he might just have a half-decent chance of pulling through, so that was my first priority. Some shrapnel from the crash had penetrated the patient's abdomen, so I started there. I cut gently, only wide enough to remove the shrapnel and try to stop the bleeding. We had hooked up an IV to transfuse fresh blood into him and keep him alive, along with something to help his blood clot. So far it seemed to be working, and I was able to get most of the shrapnel out before I finally noticed something else that was wrong with him. I first noticed them clinging to some of the pieces of shrapnel. At first I thought they were just bits of tissue, but bits of tissues didn't move like that. They didn't writhe like that. There was something else, something alive. Just looking at them, they almost resemble some kind of thin, stringy worm. Once I saw them, I knew I needed to investigate further. Something was living inside of him, and I had to find out what. The patient was somewhat more stable than he had been when we started, and after making sure that his bleeding was under control, I took a closer look at his shrapnel wounds. I heard some surgeons use the term cut and paste before. It's not the most common term out there, but I heard it, a cut and paste, which is also known as a peek and shriek to some. It's when a surgeon gets a patient on the table, opens them up, and finds that there's nothing they can do. There's no saving them from the inevitable. The only thing you can do is stitch them back up and prepare to deliver the bad news to the next of kin. It's a heavy feeling, realizing that you can't help the person you're standing over. The person you're supposed to save, but sometimes there truly is nothing that you can do. Either two injuries are too severe or the illness had progressed too far. As a surgeon, you learn to live with it. You don't like it, but you do your best you can do. You do your best. Oh, wait. But you do the best you can, and you make your peace with that. I can deal with deaths. I can accept what I've done the best I can to save someone, and failed. But the things I saw as I explored those wounds, the things I found wreathing inside the patient's guts, the things that were living inside of them, I couldn't accept those. Once I disturbed them, they started to come out. I could see them slithering out through his wounds, large, thin worms, most of them far longer than the ones I found on pieces of shrapnel I pulled out of the patient. I'd never seen anything like them before, and judging by the screams of the other doctors in the room with me, they clearly hadn't either. The worms were coming out of him. They pushed through his wounds, and I could hear some of them plopping wetly on the floor as they wreathed and squirmed. All the while, the patient's broken body lays motionless on the operating table, only twitching as the worms tore through him, making the tears in his flesh wider as they escaped. I didn't need to tell the other doctors in the room to leave. They ran the moment they saw his stomach tear open and watched more of the worms come spilling out of him. As they did, all I could do was stand and watch in horror. I backed toward the door, my hands trembling as worms twisted on the ground. I looked back up at the patient on the table. His vitals indicated that he was still alive. And all of this, and somehow he was still alive. I didn't know how he could possibly still be alive. He had lost so much blood, and now with what those worms had done to him, there was no other way he could have survived it. He should have been dead, but his vitals didn't lie. I watched the patient's body twitch and froze, looking up at him. Part of me still felt obligated to help him, obligated to save him somehow, although I didn't know where to begin with saving him, assuming if he could even be saved. He twitched, and I saw his eyes opening for a moment. I thought that somehow the anesthesia was wearing off and he was waking up, but no. As soon as I realized, this was something else entirely. The patient lifted his head slightly, his eyes fixated on me, and I stared back at him, frozen to the spot in terror, and I heard the crack of his skull breaking. His vitals flatlined, but his head remained slightly lifted. His eyes were still locked on me. Part of his head seemed to come undone as his skull underneath had shattered and only his skin was holding it together. His eyes rolled back into his skull before he finally collapsed. And a moment later, I saw something crawling up onto his face. Some other bug. This one, ivory white. It wasn't a worm like the others. This thing was more like a cross between an isopod and a house centipede, with long, spindly legs and a thick shell. I could feel its beady little eyes on me, watching me, and I swear I could see it thinking, sizing me up, deciding if I was right for it. Then, quick as lightning, it raced towards me. My heart skipped a beat, and finally, I ran, bolting through the door behind me and slamming it shut. I heard the isopod thing thud against the door as I backed away. I saw it climbing up toward the window. It seemed to stare at me for a moment before crawling up towards the ceiling and disappearing. Needless to say, we put the hospital in quarantine. Both I and other doctors who had been with me in that room with me spent 3 days in isolation, getting tested over and over again to make sure we didn't have any trace of those parasites, whatever the hell they were in our bodies. Then after that came the interviews. First, the police spoke to us. Then some kind of specialist spoke to us, asking us to go over details over and over again. We told them everything we knew, and they said they'd be in touch if they needed us for anything. And that was it. That was 1 month ago. I haven't been in the operating room since. Hell, I haven't even set foot in the hospital since I got out of quarantine. I just can't. I'm too afraid of fighting those worms in the next patient I try to work on. I'm too afraid of being thrust into that nightmare all over again. Not understanding what was happening or why. I'm afraid of that creature I saw crawling out of that patient's skull. The creatures that only I saw and nobody ever seemed to find. There was evidence of it, of course. The patient's skull had been split right open where there was almost nothing left inside. Something had clearly been living in there, feeding on his brain matter and puppeteering his body. And whatever it was still out there. I think it's unlikely that I would get any solid answers about what I saw in that operating room. I tried to do some research online, but I came up with nothing. And as far as I can tell, there aren't any documented encounters like mine. But based on my limited experience with the creatures living in that patient's body, I came up with a few theories. I suspect that thing was living in the patient's head, was connected to those worms somehow, farming them, maybe even growing them in the body of his host. Although, for what? I couldn't even begin to speculate whatever it was. There was an intelligence to it, something about the way it looked at me after it emerged from his skull. The way it seemed to size me up, it almost seemed to be thinking. I can't help but wonder if it found our host. Maybe another doctor, or even a patient. I can't help but wonder if it's walking around their skin right now, letting more of those bloody worms gesture in their guts. Gestate in their guts. I can't help but wonder what it tends to do with them. And I can't help but dread what the answer might be. Okay, so, that was the end of the story. Are you kind of scared? Okay, well, to be honest, I really like that story. Honestly, I give that a 10 out of 10. That was really fucking good. So, that was the first story of today. So now we're gonna go find another one. I really enjoyed that one, though. It was short, but really, like, impactful. Is that a good thing to say? I really enjoyed that one, though. That was posted 6 days ago by Head of Spectre. Good story. That was amazing. Hell yeah. Okay. So this is a series and a series. And this also is a series, okay? All these are series. Okay, I don't want to read this one because it has a trigger to it, sexual violence. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I mean, well, outside of uncomfortableness, like, kind of scared. But if people, I know some people do have experience with sexual violence. I'm not gonna read the story. But if you guys do want me to, I'll make a separate video, and I'll give, like, a long ass fucking warning before. So yeah. I just don't want anyone to feel, scared. Okay, I'll do this one. Let's see, how long is this one? Ooh, that's a lot of reading. Ooh, that is a long ass read. Okay, hold on. Okay, this one isn't as long. Okay, we're gonna be doing this one. This one was posted by Skinny Tinkle 6 days ago. I believe I already read a couple of stories before. I'm not too sure. I'll take a drink real quick and we'll keep going. Okay. So, the story is called Stay Away from the Beach this Summer. I'm a pretty brave guy. Well, I think. I'm fine with heights, bugs, gore, scary movies, all of those things. I'm also a fairly big guy. I stand at 6'5" and I spend a lot of time going to the gym. So you can understand why it takes a lot to scare me. That must be why my friends find my fear of the ocean so amusing. I honestly can't stand it. But I think that's completely reasonable. I mean, there are so many things in the ocean out to get you. Even thinking about deep water, I get a sense of dread. But it's summer. Everyone is at the beach, my friends included. Last week, they told me that all of them were going to the beach on the weekend, and I had to come. You, you know how I feel about it. Can't you swim? Sure, I can, but in a pool? I can, in a pool. I'm telling you, any sane person shouldn't want to swim in the ocean. Dude, get over yourself, Ted. You're 25 years old, man. Not want to be emasculated so easily. I decided I'd tough it out, helped by Tracy's suggestion that if I wanted, I could just mope in the sand and get myself a tan. So, Saturday morning, we went to the nearest beach. I spent the first 5 minutes lying down in the sand with Tracy, Caroline, and Ruth. But it was scorching, so I gave in and walked towards the water, much to Evan, Tyson's, and Hank's delight. They were up to their waist in water, half attempting to drown each other and laughing all the while. I was the only one up to my knees. But once they began to goad me, I took a step forward and immediately felt prickling sensation on my leg. Evan moved towards me, probably planning on dragging me deeper, but I yelled at him to keep his distance. This weird-looking jellyfish just stung me. Oh, I see, he responded. The bell, or hood, which is to say, the head of the jellyfish was transparent, and it looked like there was the pink, wrinkly mass inside with a ton of tentacles dangling from it. Several of them touching my leg. Safe to say I hopped back onto the sand pretty quickly. Tracy was apologizing profusely for pressuring me into swimming, which I just laughed at. Dude, that's a nasty looking sting you got there, Ted, Evan interjected. He was right. A solid part of my leg surrounding the sting had gone extremely pale. You want me to pee on it? Tyson joked, now having walked over. I'll pass. I'm not getting back in the water, though. Okay, Ted. I'm not gonna argue with you. We stayed there for about 2 more hours, by which point I had actually fallen asleep, and I was woken up by Evan and a girl standing over me looking concerned, with the distant sound of Tyson's laughing maniacally, probably holding Hank underwater. What's wrong? I muttered, sitting up. You're white as a ghost, Caroline pointed out. It's odd, in the feet, Ruth agreed. They were right. I told them that I head home, to which they insisted that I visit a doctor. As I drove home, though, I figured the pink ones aren't meant to be dangerous. Besides, I was half asleep already. I got home, I fell asleep as soon as I touched the bed. When I woke up, it was dark, and I had an intense need for water. I was still extremely tired, though, so I half crawled to my fridge and downed more than 5 bottles of water. Right there and then, I felt a bit better, so I stood up and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I was much skinnier and hairless, but that wasn't very important. My skin was clear, fully transparent. My body didn't look right, either. Instead of blood or muscle, I just saw my skeleton, my nervous system and my organs floating around in an elastic, jelly-like substance. Understandably, I passed out, and when I awoke, the sun was setting. I stumbled over to a mirror, and I was hoping to find out that it was some side strange nightmare, but instead, things had gotten worse. My organs, which I could unfortunately see clearly, were smaller and withered. My bones also looked to be in the process of dissolving. I passed out again. However, when I woke this morning, it had been nearly a week since I had been stung. This time, though, I was comparatively full of energy. I walked over to the mirror once again. I looked like a humanoid mass of jelly. The only things inside of me were my brain and my eyes. Now surrounded by a jellyfish hood, and my nervous system in the final process of arranging itself into tentacles. It was worse than that, though. I had an irresistible urge to return to the ocean. I managed to drive myself back to the beach. I found myself looking around a dozen other people in the same state as I'm in. It makes sense. The beach was crowded when I visited last. As I watched everyone walk in, as soon as they set foot in the water, they collapsed forward, dissolving, leaving only the head and tentacles. It was kind of an effort to type with jelly fingers and all, but also resisting the urge just to enter the sea. That's when my eyeballs are going to disappear and I'll just be left as a jellyfish. There are only two things I hope for now. One, that I'm not conscious as a jellyfish. Two, that the beach isn't crowded this weekend. I'm not confident in either. So my advice, stay away from the beach this summer. So, are you scared of the beach? Okay, wow. That was the end of the story. I honestly want to say, I liked it. It wasn't, it wasn't that scary, but, I really enjoy it. So, yeah. Okay, well, that was the second story that I'll be reading. So, that means the video is over now. So, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys all enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, I'm going to, I'm going to leave the links down to the stories down below, the two. Next time that I'm making an r/Nosleep video should be, this upcoming Monday, but this is being recorded on the 21st, so next Monday will be also the 4 normal stories. Or do you even enjoy the short ones? I don't know which one you guys enjoy. But, hopefully y'all enjoy. So, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone.